Taylor, thank you for the introduction. Thanks for the opportunity today. So my name is Dan McMorris. I'm a co-founder, currently the Chief Strategy Officer for the Provenance Chain Network. I come from a nearly 2-decade career in supply chain and logistics. And the interesting part about that, I say this, and I think you mentioned you're in logistics, you would understand the difference. Most logistics focuses on trains and planes and automobiles, not to mention a movie. But the supply chains that we operated in the company that I helped build was actually buying and selling raw materials on our balance sheet. And that was multiple tiers deep. Think 3 or 4 tiers deep into a supply chain, buying and selling. And that was a very different experience. It was wrought with counterfeit. It was wrought with quality issues. It was wrought with misdistribution and gray market. All sorts of demand and supply planning inconsistencies throughout that supply chain whip. So those were some of the problems that I faced. Now, Bitcoin launched in 2008, and I completely dismissed it, Taylor. I thought it was vaporware, nothing. It was the tulip phase, right? That craze that had just no meaning. And so I dismissed it. I started looking into it, I don't know, I think I read the Ethereum white paper 2015-ish and 2016. I started realizing it's just code, or in its purest sense, it's code. And it was an if-then statement for smart contract management. Then I read the Bitcoin paper. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just code for how to manage store of wealth. So for me, I started to conceive of how this technology could help the problems that I had managing a supply chain. But it's also important, and I think let's use this as the framework for our discussion today. There's 3 different levels of this space. First is Bitcoin. That's the granddaddy. That's store of wealth, right? And I talked. Then you've got crypto. And this is broadly where everybody thinks this technology lies. And it's also got some speculative asset pricing built into, the mechanisms that they have, right? It's using immutability for financial transactions or exchange of value, not the store of value. That's not where we're applying this technology. And I'll get to that in a minute. But then you got Bitcoin, you've got crypto, and then there's blockchain. And understanding that the blockchain or distributed ledger technology, DLT, more broadly, takes this technology and points it toward enterprise use cases, businesses. That's where the Provenance chain network is focused. And what we do, Taylor, we take this technology and encryption and hashing, and we'll use this technology to provide the verifiable credentials of the 5 Ps of commerce. And the 5 Ps to us are the people, the parties, the products, the processes, and the places. So you've got the 5 Ps of commerce, and we use this technology, and that is distributed ledger, blockchain, and AI. And we do this 3 ways. There are 3 functions that we use this technology differently. None of them are you going to hear any terms, speculative assets. We're not talking proof of stake or proof of work. What we do is that we create a distributed system of evidence using this encryption and this hash function. And the distributed system of evidence is documentation for compliance, right? And then secondly, we register that evidence as owned data. We don't believe in data privacy. We believe in data property ownership. And so we'll use the technology to create a function we call selective disclosure. So it's the ownership of the data maintains control in their possession at all times of sensitive supply chain data or compliance data. But then the third thing we'll use, and you'll hear the words that you've heard before, we'll capture immutably the results of the evaluations of the evidence against the requirements of oversight. And we do that so that companies can make claims, and right? Sellers can make claims about their products, and it's the results of the evaluations that are then made public through that selective disclosure. You can also selectively disclose to the evaluators, but this is how we're using, tokens to capture information that's meaningful to business. And everywhere that we've looked at this, in I think probably a dozen different industries, Taylor, the number one pain point for supply chain visibility is in the protection of intellectual property multiple tiers deep. And I'm certain we'll talk about that, but that's that's my history. I love to solve puzzles. I love math. I love logic. I'm a closet nerd. I'm a geek. And I got into, I invest in Bitcoin, I invest in crypto, but I utilize blockchain to solve enterprise problems.